Welcome. My name is Ed Martin, and we are so glad you are with us today. And as you've already seen in that video, we are in Do Something. And Do Something is my favorite Sunday of the year. As you saw in that video, you've already heard of some of what we've done in the past. And I just want to say up front, I am so proud of this church and what you guys have done. And today, what I want to do is we'll tell you a little bit more about that. Then I want to tell you some of my story. And then I want to tell you about the projects we're going to have coming up, along with I want to teach you something that Jesus had to say that you've already heard. I just want to put it in a little bit different focus. And if you aren't a Christian, you're not a church person, can I just say to you, you have picked the best Sunday to be at Community Christian Church. Because today, by the time we're done, you're going to understand something about Christians. You're going to understand why we think we ought to be so generous and why we give. And it's not like Christians are the only ones who give. In fact, in our country, everybody gives. In fact, Christians and non-Christians give about the same amount. So giving isn't a Christian thing, but Christians have a different motivation for it. And even if you are a Christian, maybe by the time we take some of these things that Jesus has said, and I put it in this context for you, it'll become for you what it became for me. It'll become an kind of moment where you see something that may really help you. It certainly helped me. So, as many of you know, I grew up on a cattle farm in Mississippi a long time ago, as you can tell. And I was raised by a very hard-working dad. Now, our work ethic was high. And even among other farm people, I think they would have said my dad's work ethic was super high. So I grew up knowing that you ought to work hard. My dad wasn't a Christian. My mom was a Christian, and one of the things that my mom loved to have my dad do, I don't know whether she was trying to get him to understand the Bible or she just wanted him to sort of lead our family or something she'd seen. At many meal times, she would ask him to take a Bible, to open up to a passage, read us a passage of Scripture, and then pray before our meals. And because of my dad's hard work ethic, he really only knew a couple of verses on the Bible, and I bet 3 out of 5 times that he would make this big production of randomly thumbing through the Bible to find a verse, and then 3 out of 5 times it would be this verse. This says, I can hear him saying, this says that if a man won't work, he shouldn't eat. So we're going to eat, and then we need to get out and get to work so God won't be mad at us. Amen. And then we'd go off and we would eat. So you need to know that I grew up believing that you ought to work, and you ought to work hard, that hard work was a good thing and that everybody ought to be engaged in it. And if you weren't willing to work, I believed when I was a young guy, you shouldn't be given anything. Now that led to another thought that was embedded in me somewhere, which was, if you were poor and you needed help, then that probably was because you were lazy. And I probably shouldn't help you because that was going against what God had taught. Now, I also wasn't a Christian during that time. I became a Christian during college, and as you've probably heard me talk about before. If you haven't, I became a Christian in college, and then eventually, as you can tell, I became a preacher. In my early 20s, Becky and I had moved back from the north where we lived for a short, miserable period of time, back to the glorious south. And I was living here in a small town in Georgia, leading a small church, less than 100 adults. And one of the things that surprised me in those first few years of being a Christian is when you read the Bible, which you ought to do, the Bible does have a lot of things to say about the poor. And it has more than the couple of verses my dad loved to tell us about the poor. What you find when you read the Bible in God's heart for poor people is God loves the poor. And that God expects those who follow him, Jesus expects those who follow him to help the poor. So I'm reading that in my 20s, and I began to try to take those verses serious because I wanted to be the kind of person that took their faith and following Jesus seriously. And in addition to that, the place where we were serving, we lived in a church-owned home. They call it a parsonage. And that church-owned home sat right next to a trailer park. Now, in that trailer park, I began to get to know some poor people for really the first time in my life, really get to know them. Becky and I, because they were our neighbors, we began to get to know them. And through that, I began to work with another guy in our community to form a ministry so that we could help people take a step up. And we tried to get all the churches we could to go together to work on this so we could make a difference among the poor in our community, and we opened this ministry. Now, you need to know that I found out in doing that there are all different kinds of people who are poor in our country. Generally, around Community Christian, when we do things like the Thanksgiving meal, or we do things like what we're doing at Christmas this year, most of the projects that we work on, we're helping what I would call the working poor. That is, people in our country who are working, they're trying to do the best they can, and for a whole series of reasons, they just need some help. And so we want to try to help them. It's what God calls us to do. But they're working and we're working. We're both trying to do our part. Well, what I learned in this ministry in my 20s is there's a whole other group of people that I would call the I'm not working and I don't want to work poor. And it's not really as much an attitude, which there is an attitude that comes out of it, but it's for a whole series of reasons, often alcohol and drug abuse and other kinds of abuse problems. People find themselves in situations, and as I was dealing with them, we were open 2 days a week, Wednesday and Friday. I found that there are a whole group of people that they were perfectly happy coming and getting help from us on Wednesday and Friday and getting help from other places they could, and that was good enough for them. They weren't trying to go anywhere with their life. In fact, what I discovered was it seemed to me that I cared more about their future than they cared about their future. And the longer I did that, we were there 7 years, the longer I did that, what I found was my compassion level was going down. I was still doing the right things outwardly, but my compassion level for people in that situation, it didn't seem to me they wanted to get better. My compassion level went way down. My compassion tank was about to run dry. Now, not my giving tank. You should know that once I became a Christian and I understood that God gave us the opportunity to contribute back to His work, I've always given to the church. And I get it, I work there, and so there's a little bit of that kind of thing going on. But as I've given to the church, I say particularly 27 years at Community Christian, I love giving to this church. I mean, Becky and I love contributing what we contribute to this church, and I try my best to give as much as we can every single year. This place, I am eternally grateful for the difference it's made. It's changed my life. It's changed our life. It's changed the lives of my sons, and now the lives of their family, and now my grandchildren. We love what we get to do together here, and so it's easy for me to give to the causes that we support here because I believe they are making a big difference here. And it's not only that, my giving tank, I've been blessed to the point that I love giving to other organizations around our state and around our country, around the world, where I can see that I'm making a difference. Hey, can you go to help, give money to help with this new church starting? Can you give to this organization, support this kid in this other land? You can see the difference that's being made. I love giving money when I can see I did this, this family got fed. I did this, and this church got started. I gave this, and this person got better. I love when I can see that problems are getting fixed. But when it comes to just giving money and I don't see a return, when it comes to I give something and I don't see there's any advantage to it, well, my compassion level is got pretty low at a particular point in my life. And I don't think I'm the only one like this. In fact, I talk to people around our church like this all the time. So what I want to show you is I want to show you what I discovered at some point that really changed this for me and kept my compassion tanks pretty high all the time these days. And this is so different the way Jesus talks about it than the way we normally think about it. See, when we normally think about giving, we think about, hey, I'm going to give and this is going to happen. And I give, and it's the way we're motivated. We're motivated to give to causes that we think will make a difference. I give because I know they need this, and I have been blessed, and I can give to that, and I can help this family, I can help this kid, I can help this church, I can help that organization, and it can make a difference. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm going to ask you to do some of that in just a little bit. And if you do that, and that's the reason you give, then, man, lean into that and give as much as you can. That's a really good thing. But you need to know that is not the way that Jesus talks to his followers about how he wants us to give. He says, I want you to give for a whole different reason than the fact that you see that it's making a difference, and you see that it's going to change things. He says, and I just want to read this to you so you can see it. He says, "But to you who are willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who hurt you." To which you say, "Hey, I thought we just heard that." Some of you last week. Yep, that's exactly right. I just want to show you a different way to look at this a little bit, a different application than we talked about last week. But when we read that and Jesus says those things, our first reaction is, Jesus, I have to just be real honest with you. I don't even always pray for the people I love. I don't always pray for the people who bless me. I don't bless the people who bless me all the time. Mostly when I pray about me. I pray about what I need. So I just want to be honest with you. Me praying for people who hurt me, for people who aren't good for me, that probably isn't going to happen. If someone slaps you on one cheek, offer the other cheek to them also. If someone demands your coat, offer your shirt also. Well, okay, those are really nice words, and I get where you're going with this, but that's not how we do it. I know. Jesus says, I'm inviting you to a whole different kind of generosity. And I'll just say to you, if you and I can get this, if we can get this thing clear in our mind, then for followers of Christ, our compassion tank doesn't have to run dry. It doesn't have to get empty, he says. He gives this overarching principle. If you love only those who love you, why should you get credit for that? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good only to those who do good to you, why should you get credit? Even sinners do that. Now, the interesting thing is, what he's giving us is, it just comes back to, we all give to people who there's something that can bless us. Now, maybe we're not giving to get something back like I give $1 and I get something back. I give and I like to see things happen. I like to see things change. I like progress. That's me. Or I give and it makes me feel good. I give, and when things work right, I get something back. And Jesus isn't being critical here. He isn't saying that's wrong. Be clear. He's not saying one's wrong and one's right. He's just saying that's the way everybody does it. You don't even have to believe in God to do that. Everybody gives that way. That's just the way we do it. He's saying, I just want you to know that when you do that, you should ask yourself, so if you gave and you got something back, what credit is that to you? Why are you pointing this out, Jesus? Well, because I'm inviting you to do something different. I'm inviting you to love those who don't do good to you. I'm inviting you to love those who won't do something good for you. I'm inviting you to love those who wouldn't do something good for you, even if they could do something for you, because they're your enemy. I want you to do for people who will not be grateful, who will not change. And if you lend to those for whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners expecting to be repaid in full. In other words, simply giving, expecting something back, it's not bad. Don't hear him say that. It's not bad. It's just what everybody does. You don't have to be a follower of Jesus to do that. People love to give to grateful people. People love to give to things that make a difference. It's not bad. You just need to know followers of Christ are invited to something vastly different than that. So he turns the corner in verse 35. Love your enemies. Do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be great, and you will truly be acting as children of the Most High. For he, God, is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. Now, it seems silly to me to ask this on Thanksgiving week because I know the answer. But how many of you would be willing right now at Ashley Park, raise your hand and say, there have been times I've been ungrateful to God? My hand's up. God's given to me, blessed me. I love my life. I'm thankful for it. But often, God has given to me and I've been ungrateful. And notice that last phrase he uses again. He, God, is kind to the unthankful and the wicked. So, Jesus, you're saying that as we give to those that don't deserve it, we give to the unthankful when there's nothing coming back, there's no return coming my way. The more we give to the wicked who would abuse my gift and take advantage of my gift and wouldn't help me if they could, the more I do that, the more I look like God who gave to the unthankful and the wicked. That would be me. He gave to me when I was unthankful and wicked. So my generosity as a follower of Christ is not to be driven by simply, hey, I see there's a need and I can make a difference. Those are okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But my generosity as a follower of Christ is because I want to be like God. My giving, my generosity, even to people, even in situations where there may not be a return, it gives me a chance to be a picture of what God is like to the world. Jesus says, I want you to give to unthankful, ungrateful, wicked people. And when you give that, you are like your Father in heaven. You know, there really isn't one place in the Bible that I can point to that says, hey, the more Bible you know, the more things you can quote, the better you sing the songs, or the amount of money you give, that any of that represents you being like God. You want to be like God? Jesus says you do for people, you're generous toward people who are unthankful and who are wicked. Because that's like God. When you do that kind of thing, you're like God. So you go and you give to people with no thought of what you're going to get in return, and whether they're going to change, or whether it's going to make a difference, or whether they really need it, or whether they're going to say thank you, or whether they use it correctly, or what's going to happen with it, whether you get done, or whether you're going to make a difference, or any of those kind of things. You go, you find an enemy, and you are generous to them. He's saying, I want your generosity to not be driven by the need. I want you to be driven by God's generosity. I want you to try and not get your reward from people because you feel good about it, or something gets better, or the world gets fixed. That's the way everybody gives. But for my people, I want you to give the way God gave to you. And God didn't give to you because he knew it would make a difference. That is not what he did for you. See, when Jesus died on the cross, Jesus died on the cross for everybody. He died for people who would be thankful for that gift and would accept the leadership of him in their life. He died for them. And he died for people who would never be thankful for his gift, who would never accept his leadership in their life. Jesus gave his gift for people who would never acknowledge it, for whom it would never make a difference. The reason Jesus said yes to the cross is not because he would get something back where eventually I would look at him and say, I'm so thankful, which I am. I'm so grateful that you're changing my life, which I am. He did not do that so I would do that. Jesus went to the cross because the Bible says it pleased his Father in heaven. It was to please his Father. Jesus says, that's the kind of giver I'm calling my people to be. I want you to give like I gave to you, like my Father gave to you. So move past, I can make a difference, and move past, it makes me feel good, or I feel bad because I have more than other people and so I ought to share. Move past all of that to, I give because God has been so good to me and I want to be like him, and I want people to see how good he is because I give the way he gives. Here's what it'll do. Here's what it does. Here's what it's done in my heart, and here's what it can do in our hearts when we do this. We get freed up to be generous to people in places where normally we'd be like, now wait a minute. How's that going to work? And now wait a minute. Is that going to make a difference? I mean, now wait a second. I don't know if that's even is going to do anything good. Jesus said, look, Ed, I'm not asking you to be generous only when you can make a difference. I'm not asking you to be generous only to people who desperately need it and they'll be so grateful to get it. I'm asking you to be generous maybe even when you don't know it'll make. I want you to be generous like I was generous to you, because I was generous to you, Ed, when it wasn't making a difference with you. And frankly, we still have some work to do. And I don't stop giving to you just because you don't always get it, and you don't always say thank you, and you don't always show up in the way I want you to. I want you to give in just the way that I've been giving to you. I want you to stop doing the yeah, but, or what about when it comes. When I lead you to give, I want you to give. So you give. And you just leave the results to me. You give and you look like my Father in heaven. You give to the ungrateful and you give to the wicked and you give to where I lead you. And you give to serve the family whether or not you know it will ever make a difference. If I lead you to give, if there's a difference, then celebrate it. That's great. There's nothing wrong with there a difference being made. But if there's not, you didn't waste your time. You didn't waste your money. There's no difference. You still represented the way your Father in heaven gives. That's why we do something every year. See, every year at the 1st of November, we take one Sunday. Sometimes we do more Sundays if we think we sort of need it. And what we do is we reset the bar for this kind of giving in our church. Now, we do different things all throughout the year. If you haven't been around long, if you hang out long enough, you'll see. We do things all throughout the year, not just this one time of year, to try to make a difference, to try to do things just to help. We try to help even in areas we don't know if we're going to make a difference. We serve our schools. We serve people in our area. We serve people around the world. We do all of that all year long. But we also get together and we sing together and we laugh together and we come together and we open the Bible together and we get in little circles and we form community and we're close and we love doing that. But that part of what we do together, we will never allow to distract us from one of the main things that we need to do together, which is we want to represent our Father in heaven to people. And one of the primary ways in our world it gets people attention is we give to our world in the way that He gave to us. And that is what Do Something is all about. We do it every year. And we do it every year at this time when everything in our culture with Black Friday and Christmas and everything calling out to all of us with all the family traditions and everything being about me, everything about turning toward me. At this time when Christmas shopping and Black Friday and doing all the things, it points us back toward us. We want to say, hey, we want to, at this time of the year, we want to point back out to what can we do to represent our Father in heaven. So we do Thanksgiving together, and we come together, and we give away food, and we give away clothing. We're so thankful for the clothing that you brought today that we'll give away this coming week. And we help people in our community with celebrate the birth of Jesus, and we do that the way our culture does, by giving gifts to kids. We help people who can't really afford to give to their kids the way you would give to your kids. We help them give in the way that we would give if they were our kids. And then the third thing we do every year is we come together and we collect a big chunk of money and we give 100% of it away to do some big projects that can make a difference, we think. But we give it away in Jesus' name to try to do something about poverty in our world. So, as you know, we've already collected clothing today, and I'm thankful again for you bringing that today. And this Sunday, we'll give that away and we'll eat a meal together. And we still need some people that would be willing to help us deliver meals, because we deliver a ton of meals, and you'll love doing that. If you haven't done it, do it with your family. And when we're done with that, I hope that you'll feel a sense that you accomplished something. But more than that, I hope you'll feel like you represented Jesus. Then when we're done here today in just a few minutes, I hope you'll go out, and in your lobby you're going to see cards like this. And this one represents a young man named Jaden who's 11 years old, and he likes, Sky Zone, and he's got all kinds of things. It sounds like your kids. And you have an opportunity to buy for some kids like this, and you just pull their name off the wall and you take it. We have all the instructions of how you bring that back and where you bring it back and when you bring it back. And you buy for somebody's kids the way you would buy for your own kids. But the last thing we're going to do that I need to do today is we need to raise this big chunk of money that we're going to give 100% away. And I want to give all the money today. I want to raise it all today. Now, many of you have been around for a while, so know that I said last year that we were going to raise it all today, and we got about halfway there 2 years ago, and then last year we got 3/4 of the way there. This year we're going to get all the way across the finish line. So let me tell you about where the money's going to go and the projects we're doing, and then we're going to receive that money in just a few minutes. You saw a video before I came up, and it talked about the work that we've been allowed to do through the 410 Bridge in Malaret, Haiti. And we're so proud of what that community has done, and that we've had a small part in being a catalyst to help them get to the place that they are. And now it's time for them to graduate from that program. One of the people that's gone with me on a bunch of those trips has said to me, do you really think that they're ready to graduate? And I said, well, if you mean, do I think they have all the things that we have? No, they don't have those kind of things. And when I graduated from high school, was I ready to be totally on my own? No, I was not. But at some point, you have to stand on your own, and that's what pushes you to a place that you would never be if you didn't have to stand on your own. And what's happened over the last 6 or 7 years, is we've helped them do all the projects that we agreed to do when we came with them, and now it's time for us to allow them to stand up and for us to move on to another community, which 410 is going to help us with in a place called Piat. Now, Piat's a lot like the place it was before, and one of the first projects we're going to have to do with them is a water project to help them get safe, clean drinking water. And as you can see from the pictures that are on screen, God has already supplied them with a really good source of water. What we need to do is we just need to help them capture it, because right now kids are still swimming in it, people are bathing in it, they're washing their clothes in it, and there's a lot of waterborne illnesses. So we need to capture it so they can have safe drinking water, and then they can do all of those things as well, and that's going to take some money. So a part of this money that we give today will go to that project. But that's not all. That's our international part. The second part of what we're going to do with this money is something I began to tell you about last year. We have for some time wanted to do something for foster kids or at-risk kids in our area to help with kids that are at risk. And we've looked for years into different kind of things that we could do and where we thought we could make a difference with our skills and our congregation's gifts, and nothing really seemed to fit in a way that we thought we could really make a difference. But through a family in our church who they've been involved with another church that their family's a part of for years, we learned about a program that does make a difference, and it does fit what we're good at, and we think we can make a difference. So last year, we took a little bit of the Do Something money, and we used it to begin to learn how we could set up a camp where kids would come, these kids that are at risk, and we could treat them like royalty for 1 week. And we could let them know that God sees them, and that we see them, and that God loves them, and that we love them. And so we've already sent a team to learn about this. We put a leadership team in place. We took the initial cost that we got from that last year, and we've done it. So a big part of the money we have this year will come to that camp for us to pull off this coming summer 2019, this camp that is at-risk children in our area, in our state. And the way I want you to think about this kind of thing is I want you to think about it as being like sort of a at-home mission trip. I mean, it's something that you can do where you'll make a big difference. Now, if you're with one of the people that we asked to help us right now by passing out cards, would you go ahead, stand up right now, and would you go ahead and begin to pass out those cards? Now, in addition to raising the money that we're going to raise to fund this camp, we need dozens of you to be involved in this camp. And this card that they are passing out to you right now is the way that we begin that process of getting dozens of you on board. And again, what I want you to think of this is I know there are a bunch of you that care about at-risk children because you were an at-risk kid. You grew up in situations that were not the best, and you want to make a difference. You want to help people in that place. And there are a whole bunch of you that wanted to help us with at-risk kids in Haiti, but for all kinds of reasons you haven't been able to. You couldn't afford the amount of money to go there, and then some of you just told me, I don't fly on planes, and so I'm not going to ever go to Haiti. Well, this is a camp that you can be a part of. It's a mission trip to our country where you don't have to fly anywhere, and it doesn't cost as much, and many of you need to be involved in this. In fact, I want you to go ahead and put your name in a way we can contact you on this, and we're going to receive these cards in just a moment. And I don't want you, as you listen to this, think, well, I'm too old, and that's not who I'm talking about. In fact, I've heard at this camp there's actually a grandma and grandpa position in this, and many of us know that's like the best position ever, grandma and grandpa. So there's something all of us contribute, and I want you to fill out this card, and in a few minutes, we're going to collect these cards. This doesn't commit you to anything. just to getting information. And we'll get information to you this week. I hope dozens of you will fill this out. Go ahead and do it right now because we're going to receive them in just a minute. So some of the money is going to go to that. The major part of this money is going to go to that. Some of it's going to go to Haiti. And then the last part, we're going to give money again this year to disaster relief. We started this a couple of years ago by helping with the wildfires that were ravaging Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And then last year we gave it to hurricane relief. Again this year there's hurricane relief that needs to get done on the Florida coast very near us. And so we're going to funnel some of the money to that. What we're hoping to do is today, I want to raise $40,000. Now, the way we get to $40,000 really isn't that hard. We know that at our campuses every week, about 1,000 of you show up. Now, there are more than that are called Community Christian Home, but about 1,000 of you show up every Sunday. And we've been saying for 5-6 years now, you can say it out loud with me, if everybody would just give $39.95, then at the end of the day, if everybody would just do their part today for every person in their family, if they give $39.95, at the end of the day, we'd have the amount of money that we need. Now, I do need to tell you that today, there's been a little bit of inflation that I need to tell you about. Instead of $39.95 today, I want you to give $40. Now, it's not just for inflationary reasons. What we've learned over the last few years is some of you are really, really bad at math. And so we just removed that nickel problem for you, and we've made it $40. We need you to give $40 today before you leave. I'm asking you to make an impulse give for every person in your family, $40 for every person in your family before you leave here. And I never mind asking people to give this impulse give because, one, we're giving 100% of it away, and I know that if you don't give the money in this way, a lot of you over the next few weeks, you're going to buy something on an impulse buy for $40, and eventually you're not even going to remember what it is. In fact, you'll see something on TV and they'll say it's $19.95, and if you buy two, it'll be $39.95, and we'll get you those to your house, and eventually you're going to sell whatever that was at a yard sale and not remember what it is. I want you to take that money and I want you to make an impulse give today, $40 for every person in your family, so that we together can do something for these three great projects. And here's what I know. Nobody ever misses money. You miss money that you waste. I mean, you look at that thing you bought, you're about to try to sell it at a yard sale, and you regret you spent it. You miss money that you lose. Nobody ever regrets money that they gave to something they felt like was worth giving money to. So, we want to give you a chance to make a difference today. And all the money that we give, 100% of what we give we'll give away. We've already taken up the offering earlier. 100% of what comes in the next few minutes, we're giving all of it away. But more than that, having you give an amount, I want 100% of you to participate. See, some of you have so many people in your family that you don't think you could give $40 per person. I get that. So you lower it to $30 or $20 or $10, whatever you think you could give, you give. I want 100% participation for everybody in here. And the truth is, for every one of you who can't give 40, there's people here who could give $100 per person in their family, and they could do it joyfully. So right now, there's a number on your screen. This is how you can text this money. We love every year at this point, a lot of you right now while I'm talking, go ahead and text that money. The way you do it is you put what it says on the screen, the dollar amount, the word due, you text that. Now, what's going to happen if you've never texted to give is immediately you're going to get a link sent back to you. It's a secure link so you can give without worrying about your information. You put your credit and debit card information in there, and then your donation will be made, and we can have it in just the next few minutes while I'm talking. If you don't want to text to give, maybe you already have the church app on your phone. If you just open that up, go down the right-hand corner, and it says Give. Click on that. Choose the fund. Do something. Put in the dollar amount you want to give. Click the donate button, and you are done. If you don't like that, if you're one of the people that says, hey, I just carry cash or I have a check, we have got you covered. Because on your chair right now, there is an envelope, and you can just put that money or that check in the envelope right now. You don't have to write any words on it, because every envelope that comes in the next few minutes, when we're going to receive this in just the next few minutes, it's going to go toward this project. 100% of it is going to be given away. And what I want to say to you is, Every single year I hear people say, man, I love doing that. I love helping with that. But what happens if we get more than the $40,000? Well, just so you know, we have already vetted other projects. I haven't talked about it, but there's a new church we're helping start in Griffin, Georgia. We started a new church in Noonan this year. We're starting another new church in Griffin next year, and they have some things we'd love to give some additional money to. If you get more than that, we will give to help them. If you get more than they need, we have other projects as well. So, right now, in just a moment, we're going to watch a video. And while that video runs at both our campuses, we're going to receive this Do Something offering. That means you ought to be texting right now. You ought to be using your app right now. Or if you're using cash or check, you ought to be putting it in an envelope because we're going to receive it right now. Also, I want you to put these cards in these offering containers as they go by. While we're doing that, we're going to watch a video about the kind of camp we're helping start this summer. Let's watch that.
If I had to describe this camp in 2 or 3 words, I think the first word that comes to mind is amazing.
Fun, constant fun.
I think it's just a total blessing, not only to the child, but to the counselor.
Just the love of God, I mean love. At the end of the week, this is where you really understand the word love. These kids are coming from lives at home that are very troubled, that are very, a lot of fear in their lives.
Many of them are being shuttled from foster home to foster home, and they don't really know what it's like to have a loving mom. And I've had many kids want to call me mom at camp, or you're nicer than my mom.
You're the light in this darkness. You're the hope to the...
We have birthday boxes at camp, and one of the boys, he opens it up, and he was definitely the big kid at camp. He was the alpha male, and the kid opens up his birthday boxes, and he starts jumping up and down, you know, look at all the stuff they gave me. I must be special, I must be special.
When I was little, I thought there was nothing more out there than just changing homes. But now I know there's a whole world out there. Road Friendly Kids Camp, you know, will always be in my heart. It changed me for the better. And now looking at these kids, all I want to do is change them. I don't want them to go back to their home because I know what they're going through, and it's hard to see them, you know, be all happy here and knowing that some of them will go back to still missing their parents. I want them to know that there's someone out there and there's people here that love them and care for them.
I want to thank you for everything that you gave, and then I want to end the way I always end. I want to talk to those of you who are cynical and you didn't give yet. And I get it. If I were where you are, I'd be cynical too, because I'm all hyped up and I'm excited about it, and you think I'm not being honest with you. I get that. One, I want to say to you, we are going to give 100% of this money away. We have for several years. We will again this year. And the reason we can do that is because sitting all around you are heroes. About a third of the people sitting around you, they give so well every week, every month around here that we can do this, give it away, and we make a difference in our community, and we are thankful for them. Secondly, we don't do this because somehow we think this is going to make a difference. Remember, I said we're not doing it because we know something's going to change. We do it because we want you to understand how grateful we are for a God who gave to us when we didn't deserve it. We're doing this as our way to show to people around us that God loves them and He gives, even when they're ungrateful, even when they don't appreciate it, even when they aren't acknowledging Him. God cares about them even if they ever care about Him. And so now, I want you to go out. I want you to look for these kids. I'm not going to pray for you. I'm just going to dismiss you. 1, 2, 3, go do something.